You are not tired because you are bad with money. You are tired because your value has been leaving your life faster than it has been returning. And that truth may land harder than another budget ever could, because there is a kind of money exhaustion that does not come from laziness. It does not come from ignorance. It does not even come from lack of ambition. It comes from realizing that you have been responsible, generous, available, disciplined, useful, and still somehow drained. You can be earning and still feel empty. You can be working and still feel behind. You can be needed by everyone and still feel unsupported. You can have income coming in and still feel like your life is leaking from places no spreadsheet fully explains. That is when money stops feeling like math and starts feeling like a mirror. It shows you where you keep saying yes while your body says no. It shows you where you keep accepting less because asking for more feels dangerous. It shows you where you have confused being valuable with being endlessly available. It shows you where your wealth pattern is not just about what you make, but about what you keep giving away without naming the cost. And here is the part most people do not want to admit. Sometimes your financial exhaustion is not because you do not have enough discipline. Sometimes it is because your discipline has been serving an unfair exchange. You have been trying to outwork a pattern that is asking to be renegotiated. That is why more effort has not brought the relief you expected. More effort can increase income, but it cannot heal a broken exchange. More effort can fill a calendar, but it cannot restore a life that is overextended. More effort can make you look productive, but it cannot make you feel wealthy if your energy, time, skill, care, and attention keep leaving without a clean return. This is where the deeper pattern begins. You may know what it feels like to be the reliable one, the person who figures it out, the person who adjusts, the person who makes things work even when no one sees the cost. You may have learned to be easy to work with, easy to access, easy to depend on, easy to call, easy to ask, easy to lean on. And at first that may have looked like strength. People praised you for it. They called you dependable. They called you gifted. They called you generous. They called you hardworking. They called you humble. They called you loyal. They called you someone who always shows up. But praise can become dangerous when it rewards the part of you that keeps abandoning yourself. Because if you were only loved when you were useful, usefulness starts to feel like safety. If you were only respected when you overperformed, overperformance starts to feel like identity. If money only arrived when you exhausted yourself, exhaustion starts to feel like the price of survival. And then, without realizing it, you build a wealth pattern around depletion. You undercharge because you do not want to scare people away. You over-deliver because you want to prove the value was worth it. You accept vague agreements because clarity feels confrontational. You keep helping because guilt feels heavier than resentment in the moment. You tolerate late payments, unclear roles, emotional dumping, scope creep, unpaid labor, unspoken expectations, and invisible responsibility, because some part of you still believes peace is earned by making other people comfortable. That is not generosity anymore. That is imbalance wearing the costume of kindness. The lens today is value exchange dynamics. This frame looks at the invisible economy underneath your life. Not only money, but time, access, attention, emotional labor, skill, energy, loyalty, wisdom, availability, and care. Every relationship, workplace, business model, household, and opportunity has an exchange pattern. Something leaves, something returns, something is offered, something is received, something is named, something is assumed. When the exchange is clean, you may still work hard, but you do not feel erased by the work. You may still give, but you do not feel punished for caring. You may still serve, but you do not feel consumed. You may still stretch, but you do not feel like your entire life is being used as the payment method. When the exchange is distorted, effort begins to feel personal. You start asking, why am I so tired? But the better question is, where is my value going without a real return? This pattern is ancient, long before modern paychecks, online businesses, corporate roles, creator economies, and personal brands. Human communities had to understand exchange. Early trade systems were built on the recognition that survival depended on reciprocity. Grain for tools, labor for protection, craft for food, knowledge for status, care for belonging. Exchange was not only economic, it was relational and ethical. Ancient societies understood, sometimes imperfectly, that imbalance created instability. If one side only extracted and the other side only supplied, resentment grew, trust weakened, systems broke. Even early moral and philosophical traditions wrestled with the question of fair exchange. What is owed? What is honorable? What is exploitation? What does a community become when value is taken but not respected? That question has not disappeared. It has simply changed clothes. Now it shows up in the employee who becomes the emotional backbone of a team, but is never compensated like leadership. It shows up in the entrepreneur whose clients expect constant access, but resist paying for the real scope of the work. It shows up in the parent or partner who holds the household together while everyone else calls it just what you do. It shows up in the creator who gives free insight, free emotional labor, free strategy, free presence, and then wonders why they feel resentful toward the audience they wanted to serve. It shows up every time someone receives your value but avoids honoring the cost. And here is where it becomes difficult. Not every imbalance is created by someone else. Sometimes you participate in it because imbalance is familiar. You may not like being drained, but you know how to function there. You may not enjoy undercharging, but you know how to explain it. You may resent overgiving, but you also know how to feel needed through it. A fair exchange can feel unfamiliar when your nervous system was trained in proving. That is why charging correctly can feel scary. That is why asking for support can feel selfish. That is why setting a boundary can feel like betrayal. That is why receiving without over-explaining can feel unnatural. That is why rest can feel unearned, even when your body is begging for it. The issue is not only financial, It is identity-based. You may be afraid that if you stop overgiving, people will stop choosing you. You may be afraid that if you raise the price, they will leave. You may be afraid that if you clarify the agreement, they will think you are difficult. You may be afraid that if you stop being endlessly available, you will lose your place. But a place that requires your depletion was never true security. It was a contract with your fear. Look at the first real-life pattern: the underpaid high performer. This is the person who does more than the role requires. They anticipate problems. They calm chaos. They train others. They remember details. They carry invisible responsibility. Everyone knows the system works better because of them, but when compensation, promotion, or recognition comes up, the conversation becomes vague. Suddenly, their value is praised emotionally, but not honored materially. That person often stays too long because they confuse loyalty with alignment. They believe if they keep proving themselves, the exchange will eventually correct itself. But distorted systems rarely correct themselves just because you are more excellent inside them. Sometimes excellence becomes the reason the system keeps extracting. Look at the second pattern: the overgiving entrepreneur. This person has a gift, a service, a voice, a skill, or a healing presence. They genuinely want to help, so they add extra sessions, answer messages late, discount their offers, customize everything, extend deadlines, absorb client confusion, and call it service. At first, it feels meaningful, but then the business begins to feel like emotional labor, with invoices attached. Revenue may exist, but peace does not. The problem is not that they care. The problem is that care has no container, and care without a container becomes leakage. Look at the third pattern: the family provider. This person may be the one everyone calls when there is a crisis, the one who loans money, the one who covers gaps, the one who adjusts their own goals because someone else needs help, the one who feels guilty enjoying stability because others are still struggling. Over time, their money becomes less like a resource and more like an emotional emergency fund for everyone else's lack of structure. This is where wealth gets complicated, because the heart may be sincere, but the pattern is still draining. Love does not require financial self-erasure. Support does not mean becoming the backup plan for every unhealed system around you. And look at the collective pattern. Modern culture often praises burnout earning. The person with 3 jobs. The founder who never sleeps. The creator who posts constantly. The employee who is always reachable. The caregiver who never complains. The hustler who turns exhaustion into a badge of honor. We celebrate the output before we ask what it cost. Then people wonder why they cannot feel abundant even when they are productive. They cannot feel abundant because abundance is not just more. Sometimes abundance begins with a clean return. A clean return means your effort has somewhere to land. Your value is named. Your boundaries are respected. Your skill is priced with honesty. Your time has limits. Your care has discernment. Your money is not constantly assigned to prove love, worth, safety, or identity. This does not mean you become cold. It means you become clear. There is a difference between generosity and leakage. Generosity is chosen from fullness. Leakage is forced by fear. Generosity leaves you connected. Leakage leaves you resentful. Generosity has dignity. Leakage has panic underneath it. So begin by noticing where resentment has entered your wealth pattern. Resentment is often treated like a character flaw, but it is usually a signal that an exchange has become unclear. Where do you feel irritated before you even say yes? Where do you feel your stomach drop when someone asks for just one quick thing? Where do you feel angry after giving, but guilty when you imagine stopping? Where do you feel unseen in the very place you keep supplying the most value? Do not rush to fix it yet. First, tell the truth. Then notice where you have been calling something opportunity when it is actually extraction. Not every open door is aligned. Some doors open because people can sense you will enter without asking what the room requires from you. Some offers flatter your gift while ignoring your humanity. Some roles make you feel chosen before they make you feel trapped. Some clients praise your talent while negotiating against your sustainability. A real opportunity does not need you to disappear in order for it to work. Then look at your pricing, whether that is literal pricing, salary, emotional access, availability, household labor, or responsibility. Pricing is not only what you charge, it is what you allow something to cost you. If a client pays you, but consumes your nervous system, the price may still be too low. If a job pays well but drains your health, the exchange may still need review. If helping someone makes you feel loving in the moment, but resentful for days, the emotional price is being hidden. Wealth grows cleaner when hidden costs become visible. After that, practice naming the exchange before resentment has to name it for you. This can sound simple, but it is powerful. Here is what I can do. Here is what this includes. Here is what I am not available for. Here is the timeline. Here is the rate. Here is what I need from you. Here is what support looks like on my side. Here is what I can give without abandoning my own responsibilities. Clarity may feel uncomfortable at first, because unclear exchanges allowed you to avoid the risk of being fully seen. But they also allowed people to benefit from what you were too afraid to name. This is not about becoming transactional in a shallow way. It is about becoming truthful in a mature way. Every healthy exchange has truth inside it. Even more needs truth. Even service needs truth. Even generosity needs truth. Even ambition needs truth. A wealth pattern without truth becomes performance, and performance is expensive. You pay for it with your body. You pay for it with your time. You pay for it with delayed dreams. You pay for it with the quiet grief of knowing you are capable of more. But your energy is trapped, maintaining systems that do not return life to you. There is another version of you that does not need to prove value through depletion. That version still works, still serves, still builds, still cares, still wants to be useful. But the difference is, self-respect has entered the exchange. Before, you may have measured your worth by how much you could carry. After, you begin measuring alignment by whether the exchange allows you to remain whole. Before, you may have believed that asking for more would make you less lovable. After, you begin to understand that being properly valued is not arrogance. It is structural honesty. Before, you may have said yes quickly because uncertainty felt threatening. After, you pause long enough to ask, what is this really asking from me? And what is actually returning? That pause is where the pattern begins to break. Not dramatically, not performatively, quietly. One clearer agreement, one cleaner price, one honest boundary, one conversation that should have happened months ago, one refusal to confuse guilt with guidance, one decision to stop treating your nervous system like collateral for everyone else's comfort. And as that begins to happen, money may still require wisdom. Responsibilities may still exist. Pressure may not vanish overnight. But something internal changes. You stop interpreting every financial tension as proof that you are failing. You start recognizing where the exchange is distorted. You stop demanding endless effort from yourself before you examine the system your effort is feeding. That is a different kind of wealth. It is not loud. It is not performative. It is not built on proving. It is built on the quiet authority of knowing that your value deserves a structure that can hold it. So ask yourself this: where have you been giving like you are abundant while receiving like you are optional? Your money is not only asking for more effort, it may be asking for a fairer exchange. If this gave language to something you have been carrying quietly, share it with someone who keeps blaming themselves for exhaustion that may be coming from an unfair exchange. Subscribe for more Prophecy Pulse teachings on timing, cycles, money patterns, and human behavior. And when you are ready to go deeper into your own personal signal through Auris Codex, pronounced our Us Codex, you can explore the signal through the link in the description. It is a way to look at symbolic timing through your name and birth date, not as prediction, but as another doorway into recognizing the pattern underneath what keeps repeating.